And there we go. We are live on YouTube and turning the mic over to you to say good morning, Sharon. Good morning,
Okay. Well,
everyone.
you have to put up the, I think I'm going to go inside because it's hard. It's glaring out and I can't see. So I'm going
Is
to go
that
inside. Yeah, it's like the awareness is so powerful. Like, that morning, like light. Well, I don't know. My dog's okay, so I'll try it. I think he's doing good. Let me see. I'll show you how. Well, you can't tell, I don't think, but it's so bright out here that I wonder if I can read.
how beautiful? So we're doing healing the unhealed mind.
Yeah.
Ta-da, ta-da. Let me see. I'm gonna taste my coffee and see if the hubby knows what he's doing with the. He's so sweet. How sweet of him. I'll tell you, man. I used to think he was a demon from hell. I swear to God, I was sure he was going to kill me.
Woo.
My husband,
Oh.
he used to be very violent. Um, but now he's an angel, and that's how I know that this course works because, it's like I've been married to three different people, and this the same person, and the shift that has happened in him since really I believe it since I've been studying this course. It's so beautiful. So, and no, he did not put my creamer in here. So I'm gonna turn it over to you to read. I'm gonna run down there real quick and put my creamer in my coffee.
All right. Yeah. And people can take turns. Like Sally's here, Marcy's here. So, wait a minute. What happened to my?
I don't know.
Well, my picture went bye bye.
I saw your finger, then nothing.
Well, shut it off. Um,
All right, I'll be right back.
all right. Healing the unhealed mind. In fact, one can say that even though he was an atheist, he studied this problem religiously. The problem of guilt never happened, but he thought it was real. No one described it with more insight than he how the ego worked. I guess he's talking about Freud. What do you think? Um, any thoughts here? um,
Yeah, I think if you go back to Rule she's talking about Freud.
I can't see where I have the book, but I don't know where she is. Um,
It looks like she's got it up on page 11.
yeah, I'm so glad you're here, Robert. Thank you. And Marcy. All right. So he's saying the problem of guilt never happened, but he thought it was real. So I think he's talking about Freud.
Yeah,
Many of you have heard me quote what Jesus said to Helen when she was taken down the court. Yeah, it was Freud. Helen was basically a Freudian, as was Bill. Ah, you have Gabbard. Yeah, I love him. Okay. Freud knew a bad thing when he perceived it. He just did not know that bad things do not exist. That one line in a perfect summary of Freud's creative brilliance and vast contribution, and yet his very limited view of the mind. So he had like a limited view for it because he thought we were really people. He didn't go as far back as Ken, and he didn't know the teaching here yet. I think he was already gone. He knew the bad thing when he saw it. He knew the ego thought system inside and out. He just did not know that there was no ego thought system, which is why the course says that we do not have to analyze the ego. And that's the one part you don't want to do. You don't want to analyze the ego. Anytime you're analyzing, you're in the ego. It's just an isness. So when she gets back, we'll do the rest. How are you doing? Um, Sally and Marcy.
I'm doing okay.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. I'm potting a plant from inside. while the weather's nice outside.
Ah, that's nice. Good. Yeah. Generally, I have my phone on rather than the computer. And like I had it like where I could, the thing closed on it. The, what do they call that in the computer? The window of where you see yourself. I want to just show you the outside because the outside's gorgeous. It's very mystical looking today. So,
Yeah, I switched the
obviously, the
page.
only reason why we're here is because of the unhealed healer. Because the unhealed mind is the part of us that isn't even us. And I think that's just a process. Because I mean, sometimes I know that I am not Sharon, and sometimes I think I am. And
So I'm back. I changed the page.
Oh, all right. Okay, important line that says the ego analyzes, the Holy Spirit accepts. Now, I've been listening to Dove for many, many years, and that is what he says all the time. And when you are in spirit, you will accept all things as they are. But if you are in the ego, you always want something different because you're constantly looking for a bigger hit of adrenaline, right? You want your way, be important, special, all of that. All the Holy Spirit does is accept that the illusion is an illusion, being nothing but a flimsy veil that hides the truth about our reality. There is one passage that is meant as a critique of the practice of psychoanalysis, where Jesus says we do not have to follow all the circuitous routes that the ego thought system takes, which is exactly what Freud did. We could be there forever. And that's pretty much the way therapy is. You go to a psychologist, and because you're in the full self mind, you're just going to have a problem after a problem. So therapy it's valuable, but it's not necessarily necessary at this point. I don't know though. You don't know. Like the unfolding of our consciousness, being that it's only one that's waking up, we don't know. We pick that we can choose the right teacher, and that's usually the case. But at times we go unconscious, or I go unconscious. What makes us unhealed healers is that we do not recognize that what has to be healed, changed, or understood is not the ego. What has to be healed is the mind's belief in the ego. And that would be the decision maker, part of the mind. That distinction is not subtle one and needs to be reinforced continually in our awareness. This entire course rests on understanding that distinction. It is the meaning of this line that most students of A Course in Miracles know very well. Therefore, seek not to change the world, but choose to change the mind and the world. The problem is not the world. How can what does not exist, because it comes from a thought that does not exist, be a problem? The problem is that we believe it exists, and that belief is in the decision-making mind. So the Course never uses the term decision maker, except in one reference that says the body is not the decision maker. Yeah, so he coined that, Ken Wapnick, the decision maker. There's just a part of us that really knows this is true and yet wants to be separate. And that's what's going on all the time. Why is that mute button? Oh well, I don't think it means anything. There's really a meaningless world. The world that we give all the meaning to is just an interpretation coming from my mind. And if I don't know what anything is for, is a really, really good lesson. Because when you start to look at the fact that you didn't know, Sharon did not know she was really God. And tonight we're going to play something by Wayne Dyer that is all about us being God. And it's just God's awareness. It's just the veil of forgetfulness. And I think the veil's important. And what happens for me is sometimes I just get lazy, I guess, because the story is so, what's the word? Enticing. All this hate. I mean, the ego loves that. But,
Mm.
we do have right-minded teachings, and the right mind is in the course mostly. And what we're telling ourselves basically is we have a choice here right now. Right now, we have a choice. And we can only be now. Oh, good, Lynn. You'll read a little too? Okay, thanks.
Well, yeah, and I just had some things to say about this. So yeah, so the course does say the term decision maker, and Ken just thought that's a really good term, that the body is not the decision maker, and so he began using that. He didn't really coin it because it came out of the course, but but he uses it for um, a very important thing in saying that we believe that the body is the decision maker. So and it is the body that is coming up, the body and the ego are pretty much synonymous. So it is the body that's coming up with all these ideas. And um I love where you're going with this because it's really is a decision. And I've been torturing myself over the last few days because of the decision maker, because I have been looking at things in the world and saying, yeah, but he was really a bad guy, and he wasn't really nice, and all these things they're saying about him is not true, and or whatever it is, whatever it is I'm looking at and making a choice as to what it is that I want to believe about it. And the fact is that none of these characters are really here doing anything. This is all a part of my story. So, do I want to believe the story, or do I want to believe what Jesus is telling me? So seeking to change the world is so, I mean, it seems so kind and helpful. Seems like a good idea, doesn't it? Oh my gosh, let's stop this war in Gaza. Let's feed those hungry children. Let's let people have their lives and careers as if we were all the same, not because, you're brown and so you can only be a janitor and I'm white and I can be a rocket scientist. That's just not the way it is. And if I could just change the world and make everybody see that we're all the same, if I could just change the world and make everybody see that, well, yeah, but those guys are bad and we're good, our thinking is good and their thinking is faulty. If I could just change the world and make them see that. And Jesus is telling us, don't try to change the world. Change your mind about the world. And that's the thing. It's the changing of the mind about the world. And that's, I guess, when I say I've been torturing myself, what I've been doing is looking at these thoughts and recognizing how much I want to believe them, how much I want to be right, how much I want to condemn the bad people, how much I want to promote the good people. That's all misthinking. And as Joel would call it, malpracticing my brothers, malpracticing my own mind. So this is what the decision maker is, the one that says, yes, I believe this. No, I don't. This is what I want. This is not what I want. That's the decision maker all the time. And it's up to my right mind to look at that and say, no, I don't believe that. I don't want that. This is not my preference and choice. I mean, I was letting my mind go crazy. Let my mind just wander into all the fields of judgment that were available to me, thinking it's okay. Jesus says it's okay. Jesus is not going to condemn me for this. But all it was doing was spiraling me into more and more misery, because even though Jesus doesn't care about that, my mind is running wild with it. So, I don't, Jesus just look at it and laugh. I look at it and take it seriously. and it's driving me insane. So, I think, that Ken is making a really, really good point here that, this idea, and I'm going to go back a page because the kind of things that he was talking about, um, or that we were talking about at the time, um, about the psychoanalysis going through all the circuitous routes that the ego thought system takes. Basically, it's trying to peel the onion or unwind the ball of thread, or to get to the middle of it, get to the bottom of it, get to where is this stuff, when in reality it's everything that's in it's the whole ball of thread. It's the whole onion. And either I eat the whole onion, or I believe in it, and I peel it off a bit at a time. Oh yes, this is when you know, uh, my mother said this mean thing to me. This is why I think these mean things. This is when this happened to me. This is why I'm doing this uh, unfriendly stuff to other people. This is what a man said to me or did to me. So men are evil. I'd rather have the bear, thank you. That this is what we're going through, all the judgment, judgment, judgment. And that is what makes us unhealed. Healers is that we're trying to change uh, the ego and unravel the ego when the ego itself does not even exist. So, going through all the things of trying to undo it is silly. The only thing that we have to do is accept the truth about ourselves. So, if anybody else have any thought? I know Sally had her hand up. Please go ahead, Sally. You're in a pretty place too.
No. Yeah, I'm outside in my yard right now, and it's just beautiful. And I live out in the country, and I'm isolated. I can't drive. I had a seizure, so I can't drive for 6 months. So I'm here at home, and I'm just so grateful for the time here to just be able to be reflective and hang out with you guys all the time because I'm enjoying it. But I find that it's so easy for me here uh, to to just be mindful. But when I get together with my family and my sister-in-laws, and they talk about politics, and I start like getting right into that, sucked right into it, and that's for me, it's a blessing because everything else here is so wonderful that I just uh, um, I just sit there when they're talking, and I just think this is not real. Like, what you guys are talking about isn't real. And you guys are so scared, and I wish I could say something, but they don't. They believe it. They believe the dream. So um yeah, I just got together with them, and I was just like kind of being right-minded as much as I could be around everybody, but I kind of get sucked into it sometimes, like everybody else. But I don't feel the hate so much for the government people anymore, because I don't think they're real, and I don't watch them. And I've kind of just I just kind of think they're like little, they're part of the play. They're playing their role, and they're just playing a role in a movie. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of my way
Well,
of looking at things right now.
yeah, thank you. And sometimes your situation, the Holy Spirit does things to slow us down so that we can do that. So, um, and I'm glad you're taking it well, that you can't drive for a while. I can't drive at all anymore. So,
I
that
don't
was
drive either anymore.
it was
I have,
hard.
it's
Yeah,
very hard. Yeah.
it was very hard to stop driving
Yeah.
because, man, I love my independence, but
mm,
you can't see to drive. You're dangerous on the road.
I had so many problems
Yeah, I used to get
driving.
away from my husband. I used
Go
to
ahead
get
now.
away from my husband driving, because
Oh
he
yeah.
drive me nuts. So I get in the car and drive away. But now I kind of look at Bill and ask, is he driving me nuts? Why is this? I'm like, thank God for that figure. Like Dove says, I'm just gonna look at myself and wonder why is it really bothering me?
Yeah.
So it's a blessing.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
is.
it's kind of like you can go within. You can do the Ho'oponopono. That's such a great way, just going within and just saying it or listening to the song. But Sally, I think we're all in that boat for the most part that you just explained because, you know, I think that I still have something to say about what's the outer picture is. I think I still have an opinion, and I think that opinion's important. I mean, when Kimmel was thrown off, I was like, oh, I was so upset because I just love him. He's so cute. But the thing is, it's just an act. Now, here's where I get confused. When Marianne, who knows the course, I mean, she wrote a book, The Mystical Jesus, and it is phenomenal. It's a book I have on Audible, and I also have it on Kindle, and she's out there still talking because that she feels that's our responsibility. So I was in John Mundy's last year, I think it was, and Marianne shared that Ken Wapnick would get upset the way she was teaching the course because she wants to bring the course to the world, and that is just too. I think the course actually says you can't do that, right? Because you can't bring the darkness. You have to give everything to Jesus. Jesus is in charge. You have to say, Jesus, look, I love this dream. I love being separate. Once you say that and you really aren't defensive, then you can make another choice because there's a desire to still be separate. For as long as we have an ego, there'll be a desire to be separate. So it's just practicing, practice. And it's also not being hard on ourselves because, I mean, we are the Son of God. We are that. We are the Christ. Tonight, Sally, come. We're going to be listening to and Robert and Marcy, Wayne Dyer, and he gives such magnificent words to his teaching on how he explains what we really, really are here. He has a gorgeous voice. I love Wayne. I always have. But I found it the other day and I thought, I have to tell Lynn about this because I think everybody in our group would enjoy it. Because a lot of people say, well, you're not God, but you're part of God. But the thing is, if you're formless, you are God because there's no separation. Now, if you're trying to make this play like real, that's just silly because we aren't even part of this play. We are the one that's watching the play, saying to ourselves, I can't believe they think it's real. And that's the focus that it has to be. But there's a huge desire at times just to be Sharon. I think I got a kick out of her. She was fun. But at the same time, I don't, we don't, my husband and I don't watch much of it because it isn't healthy. I mean, all you're doing is just putting yourself in tension, when you watch it. I mean, is it right? Well, it's right for what's going on here because this is an attack on God, you know? And Robert's book helped me. Robert's book, I really should read that book because that might help everybody. But we're on this book. So, but I have his book on Kindle and it was very helpful. He broke it down realistically that we basically are hiding our darkness when we think that he's out there, the president or whoever it is. Yeah, you have a driving issue, Morse? Let's see. I also have a driving issue medically, and yet I drive myself crazy when aligned with ego. Still driving. No, I don't care anymore because if I'm not sharing, like, here's the thing: there is no anybody here. This was over. This is a hard teaching. When I say it's hard, it's really simple, but it's hard for the belief system because the belief wants a little wiggle room, and it's hard to get wiggle room because it is a course that is absolutely wants you to have complete, like, certainty. Certainty is everything. And what does that really mean? You just don't mess up. But I would think that everyone, like, I'll give you an example. Ramesh was Nisargadatta Maharaj's driver. And he, in his books, because I love his teaching, I mean, he basically says, this is all God and it's a happening. It's just a happening. And it means nothing. But Ramash's daughter died. And I mean, son died. And when he died, he went through 2 years of grief. He did. Because that's a very hard, you'd have to disappear. So I don't have the aspiration to be hard on myself. If we're in our ego, we're always hard. The Holy Spirit is gentle. Jesus doesn't get angry with us. Why would we? What part of us is getting agitated? It's only the ego. It's not the Holy Spirit. It's not the Holy Mind. The Holy Mind is, and remember, this is a reflection. So, to beat myself up. I mean, I live with somebody who doesn't do the course. And I told him yesterday that I wanted him to listen to Wayne Dyer. Now, he and I got on the spiritual path when we met because he was a 12-stepper and I was too. And we were real into it. But he was really struggling, my husband. So we went to meetings, 12-step meetings. And he went with me to visit Regina and Lynn in Colorado about 10 years ago now. And he saw himself looking at himself. His head was on the top. He was just, because the formless being that he is, saw Cliff sitting at the bed. And either he got scared or he became not interested. He doesn't know. So I wanted him to listen to Wayne because that's who he listened to all the time. And he went, no, I'm just too tired. And that is how the ego gets. The ego's not, there has to be a desire from the right mind, or else it's not him doing that. It's just the way so I just let it be because it's not my business I want him to be on the path with me. Well, good luck. That's not happening. But, at the same time, he has something, my husband, that is very organic. He sits in the silence a lot. He goes outside on our deck and just sits in the silent. No phone, just in nature. And he is in bliss all the time. So it's kind of interesting how all of us know, really, on the deep level, that we are not these bodies. But yet, there's a huge desire to be separate because of the specialness and our conditioning. But I just say to myself, what I dislike here, like the awakening there's a personal awakening, and then there's just the rise of consciousness. That's what I had in 21. And it wasn't a personal, like, in other words, you get rid of the personal mind. The personal mind was still there, but my awareness became alive and just stable. So but I still have this. Sharon was a drama queen, so she wants to remain that way when she comes out. And why does she do that? Because she doesn't want to go away. She wants, if I'm just God, then I'm just going to have to die now because that's all I am. Well, that's no big deal. I think it's a huge deal. I mean, I came to Altoona. This is what happened. I didn't have Jesus growing up. I'm Jewish. So we had formless being even in Judaism. But I don't know why. I was more attracted to more universal principles. And so I moved my life to Altoona. And people said, well, why are you here? I said, because I want God. And I have no idea what God is because I know it's love. But a lot of people talk about sin and hell and all of that. And I just can't imagine somebody that's all about love doing that. So I'm looking for God. And then sure enough, of course, that was the higher self was right there, moving me here, moving me there. And the course appeared maybe about 3 years later after the steps. Now, the course is radical. There's no question. But Jesus isn't saying you have to do this. He's just saying, catch yourself. Catch yourself when you're doing it. Because when you see you're doing it, you're progressing. Well, then I could say, well, I do it again. So what? It's not like anyone's out there. You're dreaming your own figures and it's meaningless. And then I had this story about, well, when I die, I just want to know I'm not dying. Well, that'll happen, and if I don't know, then, I mean, I don't know that I wouldn't cry. Nisargadatta Maharaj, which he was probably thought of as one of the most, challenging teachers, but yet amazing, would say he was smoking and he'd say, I'm not that. And he would get very mad at people. That is the wrong mind. So so when his daughter, he was in the car once with Ramesh, because Ramesh was his driver. And Nisargadatta said, you think my followers would like it that I'm worried about my daughter? That's what it says in the book. So I think it's important to just never put a brother down or sister down when they're in a story, because we came in for that. And it's not important. It's forgiveness. Forgiveness looks and doesn't judge. That's the whole problem. We look and we judge. So as one son, we collectively decided wrongly. We believed the ego's lie, the lie that said the separation from God happened. And once we believed it, we were off and running. And yes, because we thought we were going to get something special. We don't want sameness. We want to stand out. We want to be, do you know who Sharon is? She is a really good course teacher. That's what the ego wants. It wants to be special. It wants to take this course and make it important. And the course itself is a map. That's what it is. It's a map. So anyway, who wants to read after this? Because I've read for a while. And we have Dove here, Sally here. I know Robert has a difficult time. Marcy's here. And we'll
I
get to
can
the
read,
next.
Sharon. I'll read.
Okay, Mars, we have to have Lynn change the page.
Right.
Lynn, you have a really good joy and all the things that you bring to this group. I don't think it matters if you fall down. You noticed it. If you notice it, that's it. Anyway, go ahead, Marcy. Oh, Lynn, you have to change this, or is this changed?
This
one?
is the third chapter of Genesis is where we're at.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well,
I turned my mic on again. I forgot. The third chapter of Genesis is a wonderful depiction of the birth of the ego. When we read it, it should be obvious that in no way can A Course in Miracles in the Bible be made compatible. Everything in the Bible from that point on to the book of Revelation at the end of the New Testament is based on that third chapter, which gives the account of Adam and Eve eating of the forbidden fruit. It never says it was an apple, by the way. They then become aware that God is walking in the garden and are terrified that he will punish them. Out of their sense of guilt over having disobeyed God, they hide in the bushes so he will not find them. They cover their private parts because they immediately associate their sin with sexuality, from which Christianity derived its insane thought of linking sexuality and sin. Then God finds them. The rest of that chapter, which so many people think is actually theologically correct, deals with God's punishment. His sinful children will henceforth suffer and die. Their children will be born in pain, and on and on. There was no death until God caught up with the two sinners. To make things even worse, God banishes them forever from the garden. He kicks them out of heaven and then has angels with flaming and circling spears ensure that they will never get back. The rest of the Bible, Old and New Testament alike, is built on sin and God's insane plan for the salvation of his people who are descendants of these two original sinners.
I just wanted to say this just reminds me, first off, when Regis says, when God was out in the garden and they were hiding, and he says, "Oh, why are you hiding?" And they say, "Because we're naked." And God says, "Who told you you were naked?" That that's who told you you were naked. That should have been our first clue that, maybe we weren't. And that
good
he didn't,
point. Good
that
point.
wasn't what was happening. But then this all reminds me too, if anybody has ever read or seen a show on TV called Good Omens. It's a special. It's by Neil Gaiman, but it's a story of the two angels, the angel that with the flaming sword, and then the other is the snake, and it's David Tennant and Michael Sheehan who play those two parts, and they are excellent. If you ever get to see Good Omens, it's a series, it's a book. If you read the book, you get a lot of Neil is really good at pointing out the fallacy of the ego mind, how it thinks and sees in opposition to what God thinks and sees. Anyway, let's see. I'm going to go on to the next page, and if you want to keep reading, Mars, that's good. Or if anybody
Okay.
wants to share.
I can go on a little bit longer. Whatever you may think of the Bible, please do not say it is like the Course or that the Course is like the Bible. They are apples and pears, better even apples and spinach, since they are not even the same species. That chapter in Genesis says that the belief in the separation from God's will really happened and was such a serious event that God noticed it. This is the telling thing. God noticed the sin and took it so seriously that he went on the warpath. As I like to point out, if you are looking for the prototype of an overreaction, you will find it par excellence in the biblical God. He clearly overreacts. The most abusive father in the world does not hold a candle to God and his wrath, and it is all over nothing. It is God who has the authority problem. His authority is challenged and he gets even. Therefore, never mess with those with power, because when they feel their authority is challenged, they will use it against you. The prototype, once again, is God. This is all based upon the belief that the separation from God, called sin, actually happened and was serious. However, the reality is that we never separated from God. This is what A Course in Miracles calls the principles of the atonement, which is the Holy Spirit's correction principle found in the right mind. Remember, at this point in our myth, there is no world, no body, no brain. Please do not make a connection between the wrong and the right mind and the left and the right brain. They have nothing to do with each other. One could be left-brained and right-minded, and wrong-minded and right-brained. The mind and brain have nothing to do with anything. The brain is not the mind, and the mind is not the brain, though its decisions are reflected there. The problem is that we took the separation seriously and then believed God was going to punish us for having enacted it. Therefore, in order to escape his wrath totally, non-existent, of course, we made up a world in which we could hide, a world that is the opposite of heaven. Thus, everything heaven is, the world is not. Heaven is unchanging and undifferentiated, the eternal home of perfect love, oneness, and wholeness. Everything here is exactly the opposite, for the ego self is the opposite of the glorious self God created. Should I continue? I
Well, we
will.
could talk about this. This is
Yeah, if you want to talk at all, sure.
yeah, heaven is unchanging. So the thing is, we want to pay attention to the unchangeable formlessness, and it's not different, because sameness is the Course. When we know everything is the same, it's made out of the same stuff, and its perception is just a veil. So it says perfect love, oneness, and wholeness. Everything here is exactly the opposite. For the ego self is the opposite of the glorious self that God created. The ego self is pure hate. The one thing that I want to say that I have really looked at is listening to, I can hear what the ego is saying now, and it's really an ugly thought system. It finds fault with everything, and it goes from one thing to the next. And for me, it doesn't serve me to listen to a transistor radio that isn't me. It's a foreign object in my consciousness. So when I fall back and I say, okay, Sharon, you noticed it. You know, as long as you're noticing it, that means you're moving towards truth. And eventually, whenever that is, and I'm sure you've all had it as I have, just the stillness is all that's here, the stillness of presence. So it's, I want to say this, Robert has a wonderful essay. It said, Why We Fear We Are God. And I do believe that he is straight from the Holy Spirit. I mean, or Jesus. His teachings are very high. So next Monday, I am at a school, and you go in on it too. So I'm going to try to get in there and listen, because I want to hear it. But that is a fear that we're God, because that means we're kind of like done with the talking. And there's a part of at least me that still likes to watch television, do things that humans do. I don't just sit as a monk. However, the knowing is here. You can't, the one thing about the, the changeable is it changes. The unchangeable never changes. So you keep your eye on that awareness and you just keep looking that you are, and that is forgiveness. When you can say, look and don't judge, forgiveness looks and it really doesn't judge at all. It just looks. And that's basically what the course is bringing us to, where we can look and judge not. So we fell down the rabbit hole. So what? You're not judging. It's your mind that's doing it. And that mind is a foreign object. It's, now do I feel that all the time? Absolutely not. But as far as progressing, I have certainly progressed on the path, and what happened last night is I watched a movie with my husband, and it was very similar to my life when it was my ex-husband, and it did bring up stuff because there's residual stuff in there. So I found how quickly the ego was shifting into chaos, because that's what the ego is. I mean, that's what's going on in our world. It's complete chaos. And it's not like saying one person, it's really the ego that made this dream. All that Donald Trump does is he just kind of is just like a puppet for the divine will of the ego, really, because he sounds like he's always in the ego. But that's actually sad, because how could he get a break? So yesterday I was on Facebook and Gary Renard put on something really funny about being a king, and he had a crown on his head and he was eating a Burger King burger. So look at that if you're on Facebook, because it was really funny. And basically, if you can joke about this stuff, you're already home. I find people that really love the right so much are a lot of times in a group where if they even come out and give it a little peek, like maybe the other side has a point, they don't do it. But that's me making up a story, because I don't know. I just hear people. I don't know anything. And that was the one thing I heard Dove say years ago that he used, and I'm using it a lot now. I don't know, because you really don't. I mean, I didn't know that. To think, like, when I was looking for God, I didn't know it was me, that it was in me. I thought it was in the sky. I thought it was out there. So it's amazing when you get this. And tonight, Lynn's going to play this tape. And when I say that Wayne was a phenomenal teacher, he was a phenomenal teacher. He is eloquent with his words. So, just as Robert is too. But, Marks, you want to go on?
I was just gonna say, yeah, we used to watch Wayne Dyer all the time on PBS, and he was a great speaker. I think that's where when Shirley MacLaine was,
Yeah.
saying "I am God," that's where she got that from, and I know Ken thought that was pretty funny because saying "I am God" is one thing, but knowing that is completely different. And
Yeah,
you
they're
know,
two
if
different things. Yeah.
yeah, if you it kind of if you know it, you're not really gonna, you don't really have to say it. People will know it from from who you are, from how you are. You will know it from how you are,
Mhm.
and how you'll know it is from the peace. And so when you go peace, you know you're God. As long as you have questions, you're still in the ego. So the God, the peace doesn't question, has no fears, has no concerns, doesn't judge, doesn't you can know more about what God is by what he doesn't do than you can by what you think he does do. Because, you know, uh, we don't have any comparison. We say, well, God is all loving. I don't even know what that means, to be all loving, because I have so many judgments, so many
I think it's
fears.
accepting. I think it's acceptance.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
I mean, that's,
without judging, and you accept everything as it is really that is where you want to be. That is the high. To go to the top of the ladder might take a little while, but we're in the top of the ladder a large part of our day. We just don't realize it.
yeah.
You know,
And it's that judgment that really drives us crazy.
well,
So,
it's an addiction too. It's an addiction to habit energy, but as long as you stop and say, look, and I judge not, and and you basically you forgive by just putting your attention on the space, on the God self that is right here, right now. You know, the thing that Cliff was having a hard time with, because it says when you listen to this tonight, um, you know, it's basically saying, um, and I'm forgetting what I was going to say. Yeah, acceptance is a major part of a little willingness. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have a course that group that I meet with every Tuesday at 7. I love Wayne Dyer. I'll definitely watch it on YouTube. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we can send it out, or, you know, I'm going to put it in here because it's so darn good, Sally. It's like he basically, I guess it must have been before he died, because he really became like extremely advanced teacher of God. If not, you know, I don't know anyone that's completely without ego, but I wouldn't pretend to know it either. You know, because I don't know what's true. I just know that we are not these people. The people are just a false evidence appearing real. And I think we all know that. We know deep down that this is not real. How could one know and not all know? That's the bottom line. How could one know and not all know? So, yeah. So anyway, who wants to read? Anybody now want to read? Sally or
I'll read for a while, and that we have about 10 more minutes of this, and then what is
aren't we
it?
staying in this?
Yeah, we can stay in this because there's no
I
reason.
mean, if we didn't have tonight, I'd say listen to this tape because I found it to be great. Just like the body's trauma secret that you sent out, that is so good. I mean, now the thing about Gabor, he's not as radical as Course in Miracles are. Like he's not, you know, he believes as long as you know, he just came out with a book. I think it's only $10, but it's all about that we our bodies hold everything. And if you guys remember, at least maybe Lynn would, I had a lot of pain in my body because there was a lot of what they would call trauma in the body, you know, and it can arise, but it's not like it was, not even a quarter of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead, Lynn. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, and the body is the spokesperson for the ego.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Mhm.
basically, it is the ego. It is the outpicturing
Definitely.
of the ego.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever it is that
Mm.
that we're accepting into our mind, that is what the body is going to present to us. So excuse me. Yeah, I agree. I think I wish that we could have listened to that thing from Gabor, but that's all right because I did send it out, or I didn't
Well,
send
we
it
can
out, but
listen to it now. That might be really a good motivation. I mean, the thing is, we all know what Ken's saying. We all know what the course is saying. But when we join, we pretty much are joining as the one son. So that's why the joining is so important. But we can watch. I would love to watch that.
which one? The Wayne Dyer?
No, I want to do that tonight. Gabor Mate
Well,
again.
I remember we couldn't watch that because
Oh, okay.
the volume was so low, nobody could hear it. That's why we didn't watch it, was because the volume was so low that nobody could hear it. So, okay.
You know, I mean, Wayne was probably the reason I got to the course. Him and Marianne.
That's very cool. It was Gary for me, Gary Renard. He he's such a goofball. But
He's funny. I mean, he's wearing. Look, he doesn't pretend to be enlightened. You know, he'll say things like that, but he knows the truth. That's for darn sure. So
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Wayne says you are God, and so tonight. So Lynn, can you send Sally her? You know, send it out as an email. You are. It says you are God. You know, basically. And when I say that to people, they don't seem to care. And that kind of surprises me because when I found the Course in Miracles, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I got the lottery here. So,
Oh my gosh, I'm just looking here. I just see Raina is sending me why am I not Raina's friend? That's bizarre. I've always been
why are
Raina's
you what?
on Facebook, a friend request from Raina. And I just wondered, I don't know why I wasn't her friend. Maybe she defriended me when we were, a lot of people unfriended each other doing the uh, all the elections and everything, but
Yeah,
I don't
because
think
otherwise it was just going to be a fight. So
I try not to say things. That is, I try to be good, not say things and um, be um, I don't know, uh, triggered by the politics. But I didn't do so good the first time around. So, I'm glad I'm
I
given
didn't
a
either.
second chance. I
No,
mean,
I know.
honestly, you got to be grateful for this. Dove's right. The
Yes,
because
yes.
I would have just blown it off. If Kamala would have gotten elected, everything would have been roses and I'd have been
Mm.
all over all that stuff and and that
We
ain't
needed this.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's sad to say, but we asked for it. So
Yeah, we asked for it, and the thing is, I think the fear is also contagious. Like, what's going to happen to us? And then all of a sudden, you go in the past and you say, they're the Nazis, and really, they're not. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel's getting his show back. Well, that wouldn't happen in Hitler's time.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a
Well,
good
yeah,
sign.
because yeah, it's not that way at all.
No,
People don't even know, I mean, how that was. That was
right. It was just like look, he is doing what he's supposed to do. Hi, McKelly. Hi, sweetie, Nikki McKelly.
Yeah, and all,
Anyway.
all you have to do is read about Kristallnacht or, some of the things that happened during that time, and you realize that we are not near to that place where, people are being, I mean, it's bad what's happening with our um, immigrant population is very, very bad. Uh, but
Yeah, look, we're all immigrants, so it's just stupid. His wife's an immigrant, so
I know
you
how
know,
dumb. Yeah, yeah. And,
I
and
mean, it's kind of a contradiction, but that's the way our world is made up.
yeah,
It's not.
yeah, it
My
is.
wife will be free. The poor guy has this one of the strongest, or if not the strongest ego I've ever seen. Because he doesn't back down. That he had to be like take. They had to bring that show back. And he wants to get back at everyone, but that's just hurting him. So we all know that. Anyway, McCallie, go ahead, sweetheart. Come, Lynn, is that okay that I told her? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I just got on with guys, but last night I just had a little bit of the news on. I don't I watch a religious channel news station because it's a little more low key. But I do have to say there is hope there, Sharon, because
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk's wife did say that she forgave the shooter,
Yes. Yeah.
and Donald Trump did say that he could not he wasn't he was honest and he said, I'm not at that place that Charlie Kirk's wife is at, but he said, but I'm willing to maybe go there in the future if she can. He said something like that. And that there's hope right there.
Mm.
That's all I wanted to share.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
thank
love
you
it.
for
That's
that.
how I felt with Jimmy Kimmel that they brought it back. That was like, I was like, oh, good, because I did get a rise in my consciousness. Like, what the heck? You're not allowed to do that. That's never happened here. The whole conversation, and the thing is, we're not going to get anything right here. This is an attack on God, and what ego is giving us is a story that we don't like, but yet we watch it because we like it subconsciously because our subconscious is not all clear. And how do you do that? Well, you can do Ho'oponopono, you can do the release technique, or you can just listen to the course. The course is very clear that we are not this, but it is a challenging thing. It really, I mean, I think what Lynn said is true. It's necessary for us to have this challenge. If it was like the same old administration, we wouldn't have anything wrong with that. I didn't even watch it when Biden was president. I didn't even care. It was just like he'll take care of it. I'm
Right?
not real political.
Yeah, you had a lot of confidence that things were going to be going okay, and now you have a lot of confidence that things are going to go bad and we're going to have problems. So, what do you have your faith in? I'm not asking you, I'm asking myself.
Yeah, you're saying that. Yeah, but you're messing up. I would say if everyone's honest, maybe not Dove, but who knows? But we would all say that we do mess up. And I really feel like what difference does it make? We've been these bodies for so long. you like Nisrata Maharaj, when they would say to him, "Why are you smoking? Why are you doing this?" And he'd say, "I'm not that." He got angry. He got so angry he threw people out. And then people could say, "Well, he was in the ego." So what? He was still self-realized. That's the thing.
And people didn't even understand what he was doing. That,
Right.
oh, he's mad at me, he's throwing me out. No, he's telling you, go and look at what you're thinking about.
Right.
Don't come in front of me and spew all this
That's insight.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Go and
Uh-huh.
look at what you're thinking about. He was not being angry with people. People thought he was angry. He was not angry. He was
He didn't care. No,
hilarious.
but he was passionate.
He was a very funny man, and yeah, it was not him. This is not Lynn. This is not me who's speaking here. If the reality is, there is no Lynn sitting here talking on a microphone. There is no Lynn drinking a cup of coffee. That is not what's really happening. Lynn is someplace what I am is someplace entirely different, and I don't even know it because I'm not connected to that truth of who I am. When you're connected, you can see you actually do go above the battleground. You actually do go to a place where, you can see it, but you don't react to it. It doesn't affect you because like you're watching a movie on a screen. And the fact that I still react to movies that I see on the screen really indicate exactly where I'm at. If I can watch something on a screen and not react to it and actually just see it as, oh, that isn't that funny. Because what is it that Jesus says that if we um is it which one is it? Lesson 154? Go and look real quick. He says you're going to look at all this stuff and laugh. You're going to look at all this stuff and you will laugh. So, it's pretty clear. And what he's talking, when he says all this stuff, let me go and find it. He is talking about suffering, starvation, uh, um, let's see, all the things that we think are just um, the worst things that ever could happen. We're Jesus is telling you, you're going to look at that and laugh. Um, so I'm not laughing. So so that really points out to me that I still believe in it. And so anyway, continuing the reading.
I don't
It
know if
is
that's true because I think you already know. It's like, but you forgot. That's all. You want consistency, total consistency. Well, that's the top of the ladder, and I don't know who's there and who isn't.
well, yeah, yeah, definitely I want to be laughing about all of it. I want to laugh at every single bit of it. The idea of starving children, that's hilarious. The idea of animals being mistreated, that's hilarious. The idea of the planet being destroyed by our what we're doing here, that's hilarious. And I should be laughing at all of it. And the fact that I'm taking it seriously indicates the state of mind that I'm in. So and you will come to that place. You will come to that place because you have to. Otherwise, you're just going to keep coming back to this place and finding suffering. That's that's the challenge. Uh, and you can tell how far you are by your reaction to it. That's why he says, how do you feel? Yeah, this is it. It's lesson 187. He says, never forgive, you give but to yourself. Who understands what giving means must laugh at the idea of sacrifice, nor can he fail to recognize the many forms which sacrifice may take. He laughs as well at pain and loss, at sickness and at grief, at poverty, starvation, and at death. He recognizes sacrifice remains the one idea that stands behind them all, and in his gentle laughter, they are healed. So that's lesson 187. I'm telling you, I'm so excited that Dove and Karen are going to start this going through these 20 lessons, because that right there, if you can only really understand and get to the place where that's your reaction, is to laugh at it all, not because you're psychotic and you think that it's funny, but because you recognize that it can't be true. So, that, and what is healing it is the laughter. What is healing it is saying, this could never have happened. This is impossible. How can this be? And once you recognize that it's impossible, it couldn't possibly be, then you can laugh. That's the tiny mad idea. When we had the tiny mad idea and we didn't laugh about it, we took it seriously. This is what we're talking about. Taking seriously that which is not real and making it a motivation for our lives, our belief about ourselves and our belief about our Father. And I mean, it's just all of it ridiculous. So, when you can laugh about it, then you've made it. But until we can laugh about it, we're going to cry. So continuing the reading here, having made up this world, magically believing we could hide from God, there we fragmented ourselves into billions and billions of pieces, each one being housed in a body. Our discussion will remain with Homo sapiens, although this would work for any other material form in the universe. Why? Because it's all the same thing. From that point on, the body became the way of defending against the mind, wherein God would destroy us. In other words, the mind became a battleground in which we found ourselves at war with God. Remember, the true God knows nothing of this. We hide from God by seemingly escaping into a world and a body. The body, the home of the special relationship, then becomes the principal means of defending against God's wrath. We displace our belief in the wrath of God onto everyone else. This is why the Course says the authority problem is the root of all evil. And that's from text chapter 3, section 6. Not money, as the Bible says. The authority problem is originally with God and then is displaced onto every other authority in our lives. So do you see what I mean? Really, this is it. It's by thinking that there is something other than God, and that there's something that rules our life other than God. And there's only one God, not two. There's not a God of good and a God of evil. There's not a God of life and a God of death. There's only one God. And so, that God is the God of love. And so anything else is coming from the body. The idea of the body. The body is the home of the special relationship. So that's where the problem is. It's not in it's not because we sinned, it's because we think we're a body. And we have to protect and defend it and help it and make it strong and whole and give it a place and clothe it, put clothes on it and all that stuff. So, and God's saying, who told you you needed to do all that stuff? Where did that idea come from? And of course, it came from, this silly notion that we could have separated. So let's see here. The problem, however, is never with anyone else, anyone here, because the problem is never with God. There is no God who is angry, who has been sinned against. There is only a God of love and oneness, whose reality is not even far beyond this world, for his being has nothing to do with this world at all. This is why Jesus says that love is not possible here. And that's in text chapter 4, section 3, where love is always expressed from one person to another, or one person to an object, substance, activity, cause, or book, especially if it has a blue cover. That is not love. It cannot be love if it is from one person to another, for that is duality. Love is non-dualistic oneness. What is possible in the world, as the Course says, is to reflect heaven's love, which is the meaning of forgiveness. And he's got that from workbook 46 and workbook 60, that love, which reflects heaven's love, is the meaning of forgiveness. And if anybody has any comments, you can put your hand up. I'll try to keep my eyes open for that. Or my eye open. I always say that. My eye open, because I only have one. And if I close it, man, I'm gone. Okay, again, we made the world and the body to be a defense against a thought that never happened. When you realize that, you understand why Jesus over and over again in his teaching says that we should laugh and have a gentle smile. We should take nothing in this world seriously in the sense that it has power over us. We should do this because the world was literally made as a defense against something that never happened, which is just plain silly. One of the greatest jokes in the history of the world is that we call human beings Homo sapiens, which means wise man. Man, in parentheses, man in the generic sense of species, not gender, into parens. How could we be wise when we continue to try to solve the problem of the body and the world when neither exists, when both are made to defend against a thought that does not exist and against a God that does not exist? That is hardly wise. Yet in the arrogance of the ego, we call ourselves Homo sapiens, wise men. All right. Those of you who know Jonathan Swift's brilliant satire, Gulliver's Travels, will recall that he made the wise species the horse, which he called hominums. Hominums. Homo sapiens became yahoos, the origin of yahoo.com. Did you know that? Creatures who did not know anything, but we think we know. We actually think we understand what the world is. We think we understand the meaning of our lives. We think we understand how to gain pleasure and avoid pain, how to achieve happiness and success here. And there are so many wise brains telling us how to do it. Yet none of them knows anything at all, for they believe in the reality of what does not exist. And think about all the wise brains that are telling us how to live our lives, how to, I mean, you got your, Tony Robbins, there's a wise guy. Wayne Dyer, there's a wise guy. Ken Wapnick, there's a wise guy. But any of them that are teaching us that the body is good for what we want, maybe not so wise. Uh, anyway. And we do, oh my gosh, if you go on the internet, which I don't, look at a lot of, I'll look at certain people YouTubes because I appreciate them. But there are some people that you go on their YouTube and, they're like, uh, even Course in Miracles teachers. And, they're talking about, what's happening in the world right now is, God. I've heard, teachers of Course in Miracles say that, who voted for Donald Trump, this is what God wants. What does God want? I don't think God wants anything in this world. So I don't think God cares who you voted for or, who you follow or any of those things, because that's all about the world. And it's not about reality. Who you voted for has nothing to do with reality. You think it represents who you are. Do I think that it represents who I am? that I believe in peace, that I believe in love, that I believe in equality. All of those things are all about my beliefs. And that's why I vote the way I do, because I think that somebody is going to do what I think is the right thing to do. But, since I don't know what anything is for, uh, I would believe it now. Yeah, this guy was elected so that I could look at these thoughts in my mind. This guy was elected so that I could look at the world and determine, what it is that I want to believe in it and it is that I want to laugh about. And, I recognize that until I can laugh about it with the Holy Spirit, it's going to be the same thing. And it might even get, quote unquote, worse if I'm more resistant. So I think my resistance is what is causing the friction in my mind. Anybody else have any thoughts about this or anything they'd like to share?
I just love what you shared. That's all.
Thank you. Okay. So the only way we can find real peace and have real pleasure and happiness. Oh, Michaela has her hand up. Yes, please go ahead.
I just love what you shared, Lynn. And, it's Ken always taught that, you ask the question, what is the purpose for? And so, kind of like, I mean, it could get worse in this world, this dream. We just don't know. But yeah, I mean, we don't know what anything is for. And even though, she lost her husband, Charlie Kirk's wife, and it's a sorrowful time. Um, the fact that, President Trump said that he was willing to look, to me, that's no difference than what happened between Helen and Bill, and there must be another way. And we don't know what the purpose is, where the future is going to go. This may bring about a change of all world leaders looking at forgiveness if they can, if he's willing to look at it. And I mean, it was said on broadcast on national television. So all world leaders the purpose might be to put their egos aside and start looking at forgiveness, that there's another way of looking at this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that's exactly right. I mean, until we can decide to look at it differently or decide that we don't want to argue with it anymore. So I mean that's the thing. As long as I'm arguing about it, then I'm going to have a problem. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. Uh, so let's figure it out. Let's see here. Where are we at here? All right. And um, anyway, so the only way we can find real peace and have real pleasure and happiness, and all real pleasure comes from doing God's will. I hear what's his name saying that over and over and over again. Real pleasure comes from doing God's will. The only way we can find real peace and have real pleasure and happiness is to return to our minds and choose again. The teacher of sanity instead of the teacher of insanity. The teacher of the gentle laugh, not the teacher who is so serious about illusions. To apply this thought in our everyday life, we need to see how seriously we take everything that goes on here, how seriously we take the news, what goes on in our personal lives, our jobs, families, and bodies, our pursuit of goals where we actually believe that attaining them will bring us something that we need and want. The only value this world has, and the only value our bodies and our experiences have, is that they are classrooms in which we learn that we are minds and not bodies, that we inhabit the world of thoughts of the mind, not the seeming world of external reality. That is the only value. The reason this course is typically not for young people is that we usually spend the first part of our lives learning how to master the world in our bodies, how to attain pleasure and avoid pain, how to form relationships with other bodies. sometimes to have families, acquire an education, get jobs, and so on. All of this is very important in order to survive in the world. And I just wanted to say about that because I know the first time I went to see Ken, and it was in Denver. He came up, and Carol Howe and a bunch of people in Denver had invited him to come and speak, and so he came up to Denver, and I was pretty new with the course. I was with Aussie Marie at the time, so. We came up, I came up and met up with her and David and Billy Diggs, and it was really awesome. Went to see Ken, and when I went into, it was like an old church. When I went in there, I looked around, and all I saw was old people, and they were all coming up and greeting Ken and hugging Ken. I mean, I'm like, where are the young people? How come it's only old people in here? I was really pretty shocked, actually, because I had always imagined that, people would really go for uh, this course. Younger people, I would have if I had found it when I was younger. But I think it's funny that Ken says, well, it's really not for the young person because, you got to figure out that you don't want this world before you can actually recognize that what you really want. Anyway. Um, let's see. Anyhow, does anybody else want to read? My voice is kind of getting a little,
I can read.
yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, you sound like your voice is getting a little tired. So where are we? A
Uh,
person?
a person, yeah.
Okay. A person cannot do all that, however, while at the same time believing the world is an illusion. Thus, it is usually not until we are a little farther along in our lives, at least in our 30s typically, but it could be later or earlier, that we suddenly realize, as the workbook says, the world I see holds nothing that I want. And yeah, how often is someone in their 20s or 30s going to say that? They're like, I want money. I want a person. I want a family. I want a house. I want a job. They're going to have a hard time saying the world I see holds nothing that I want. We recognize how insane the world is, how nothing here works for too long. Relationships, bodies, automobiles, computers, governments, the stock market, and the weather. Nothing works. The world cannot work because it comes from an insane thought that does not work. Anybody want to say anything about the world not working?
Okay.
Although, when McKaylee was talking, did I miss something? Did did someone in leadership actually say something about forgiving or looking at something differently? Or
Apparently, yeah, Charlie Kirk's wife said that she forgave the shooter, which, I got some ideas about that too, because I think the whole thing was a big setup, and it's appearing more and more and more like it is. And even, when you got someone like Candace Owens saying, hey, this doesn't make sense, you got to know something does not make sense. Because, I mean, you know, nothing she says make any sense. Anyway,
I don't know who that is.
oh, well, thank God. You're a lucky thing. Don't even
I
look
don't
it up.
either.
No,
I don't know who she is.
don't look her up.
I
You will
won't.
cry.
I won't. I'm
You
not
will
giving the
cry.
algorithm anything to feed me.
No, honestly, do not.
Yeah.
Uh,
What
but anyway, um,
I went
so anyway, so that Erica, Charlie's wife, said that she forgave the shooter, and Trump said, I'm not at that point yet, but I could possibly. I'm keeping my mind open to forgive him or something of that nature, which,
Oh,
like I said, I think it is I don't even think that it happened the way, you know, the things I'm hearing now, it doesn't even make any sense that that kid was the only one and that he did it or that um uh I mean I don't know. I don't even want to go into it because it's a bunch of ridiculous crap. But
Okay.
just if you know anything about hunting rifles and what they do to people or animals, and you know, apparently I heard this was from the Heritage Foundation, which is run by Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens is part of it, the Heritage Foundation. Um, they said that there was not an exit wound and that actually the bullet they found the bullet in his body. It hadn't moved or done anything. It just stopped right there because he has ultra dense bones like a superhero, like Superman. And I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they're saying about this guy.
Wow.
That's what just cracking me up. I'm like, oh my God, how ridiculous. Because yes, if you know anything about hunting rifles, if it went in a little hole, it came out like there's nothing left. Um, because
Michaeli's got her hand up.
yeah, go ahead, Michaela.
I just wanted to tell Mickey, yeah, I just said that there might, if we ask what is the purpose for, then the higher purpose is that eventually, uh, by, you know, a world leader saying, I'm, I might be willing to look at this differently through the eyes of forgiveness, which is what Charlie Kirk's wife said. She said, that she forgives the shooter, which that's a big thing, especially for us Course in Miracles students and others that choose forgiveness and the Ho'oponopono prayer. So the beauty of that is that, that was televised all over the world. And if the world leader can come to maybe looking at forgiveness while he's still in office, looking at it differently all transactions. Maybe he's willing to study forgiveness now. From that could, you know, other world leaders, that could bring a shift in consciousness towards that we do not attack and that we come to forgiveness. Another way of looking at this. I mean, violence is not correct. Going about with violence and in the dream murdering, taking another physical body, there's repercussions for that. You just like children, you have to give them a timeout, or you have to redirect them and explain to them. And so that's what I see as the beauty of this, the purpose of this, and that I'm going to place the future in the hands of God, and I'm going to see it through the eyes of forgiveness, and that hopefully a shift will take place, and that we don't have to keep with the past. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely love that. And yeah, I mean, well, and if you look at what other world leaders are doing, I mean, believe me, they're coming together and they're saying, you know, this is not right and we're not gonna we're not gonna let one country or you know, right now it's United States and Israel who have come together to say, no, we're not going to make allow Palestine to be its own state. And, we're the one, I'm saying we as America are the ones who are going against the rest of the world, um, saying, let us find peace. Let us make peace. And so, I would love, there's nothing I would love more. I saw something yesterday on Facebook. I don't even know. It was how Buddhists argue with each other. And
Oh, I put that up.
you put that up.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I was trying to figure out where I saw it. It was so funny, but that's it. I mean, the whole idea of awakening and oh yeah, okay. So when Buddhists argue, may you awaken from ignorance, may wisdom find you. I think that's hilarious. uh,
The
but
the best part about it though was the two photos they put up,
the
and I
people
did,
that are, yeah, let me see if I can put it up here because it is hilarious. And the two people that are arguing, one is a popular meme and the other is uh,
they're
uh,
both pretty popular
yeah,
memes of
yeah,
two totally redneck people arguing. I
yes,
can't.
yes, yeah. So Paul Tuttle, or yeah, is that his
I don't
name?
know who they. I don't know who that is, but
Oh,
I.
he's a biker. They have a
Uh,
motorcycle, Orange County Choppers. Him and his sons have a motorcycle shop. We used to watch him all the time. And he's really, they're just hilarious. But so yeah, so may you awaken from ignorance. May wisdom find you. Wow. Anyway, I thought that
I
was pretty.
found it. Did you find it?
Yeah, I put it up on the screen.
Oh, okay. I had my other screen up looking for it. Yeah.
Yeah,
May
it's
you
awesome.
awaken from ignorance, you asshole. Oh yeah, may you find wisdom.
Yeah, I think that's hilarious. And I mean, honestly though, when all this was first starting and I was saying, I would really, pray that, Donald Trump, could become awakened and people were like, no, he's evil. We don't wish good things on him. Well,
Oh
no,
my
he's
God,
not.
no. That's what
Yeah,
I thought of when McKaylee was talking.
yeah,
I was thinking, holy crap, what would happen if all of a sudden he woke up one day, like with all the wisdom of Jesus in his mind,
yeah,
and started talking about that? Like the whole world would just gasp,
yeah,
you
I would.
know? It would be the most profound thing.
Well, you know what would happen? People would not believe it. People would reject it and probably crucify him. I mean, that's,
Oh,
yeah, because his people would kill him. Are you kidding
got a
me?
point there.
The people that are like wanting to be right and for everybody else to be wrong, they would destroy that man in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're doing now. I mean, they're making people into idols, and uh even if they want to be loving, you might as well forget it because uh you know, it, they don't want peace.
Well, because that's a piece is bad for the economy.
Well, that's what people think. People
Yeah.
think a lot of things, all right? And so yeah, people do think that war is and it is, my goodness. People don't even understand this. When we talk about oh gosh, what we're sending to the Ukraine, the weapons, etc., or the what we're sending to Israel. And we're sending out so much stuff from this country. Where is it coming from? Is coming from munitions factories here in this country where people are working. Lots of people making a lot of money in this country, making weapons to send to other countries, making planes to send to other countries so that they can fight a war. And why is that? Because that keeps the war off of our doorstep and keeps it over in their land. There's a whole this is not just some straightforward tit for tat thing. This is absolutely our own. We fund Israel so that we can have a safer world because we have people in that part of the world that are they're like our uh, uh, proxies over there. Uh, and the whole point is to keep this land safe from war by promoting it in other countries and keeping all the stuff going on there. Anyway, that's my thought about it. McKaylee, please go ahead.
Well, I have a different thought. I have a different thought that when one mind is healed, all minds are healed. And I see your point, Lynn, but I believe in just standing for forgiveness and that, you know, Dr. Schuckman talked about the celestial speed up. I think we're going into it. And that if we just keep standing with peace, that it affects other minds, other world leaders within this dream, and that there's a shift of consciousness. And it's if they crucify somebody for forgiveness, and they crucify them, but you still stand for that peace, just like Martin Luther King and Gandhi both, stood for that peace no matter what. So I see this as a shift consciousness to continue standing for forgiveness and to showing other world leaders to bring forgiveness into application, and that it works. It works. Keep doing it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I believe it absolutely. And yeah, and that's which mind needs to be changed, not Donald Trump's. Mine is the only mind that needs to be changed. Because when I choose to see him as the Christ, then I can no longer see him as the enemy. And my ego is not ready for that. But I keep telling it that's the only way you're going to be free. That's the only way I'm going to be free is by rejecting the false and accepting only what's true. So uh, that's a conundrum. And let's see what Bob is saying. Another case of right versus happiness. And history would say that war built our economy. And then he says all minds are joined. What is my mind projecting? And that's it. It's when I'm projecting peace, then peace is all I'll see. And that this is the thing is it doesn't have to be. It's like Nisargadatta. All he was seeing was peace. Everybody else was seeing this crotchety man, but he was in total peace. So, uh, you know, whatever it is that they chose to see, that was what they chose to see. And a lot of times we make mistakes about people. We assume things about people, and those assumptions are not true. Okay, so who's reading here? Projection makes perception. Mickey?
Yeah. Okay. Projection makes perception. One of the key dynamics to understand in this course is projection. Many of you may have heard me say that when Helen was taking the course down from Jesus, he said to her and Bill that the only value in their being psychologists for the purposes of learning A Course in Miracles was that they understood projection. Projection is the psychological term for the dynamic of taking something we find unacceptable in our mind and getting rid of it by projecting it out, magically believing that now it is no longer in us, but in someone or something else. For instance, if I feel guilty about something, and guilt always ends up being unconscious because we repress it, I seek to get rid of it by seeing the trait I find unacceptable in me in another. I then attack and judge that person. I wake up every morning lusting after a sinner so I can make a judgment I can justify. And all that I am doing is saying the sin is out there and not in me. This is the meaning of the workbook line. When you feel that you are tempted to accuse someone of sin in any form, do not allow your mind to dwell on what you think he did, for that is self-deception. Ask instead, would I accuse myself of doing this? This is not always true on the level of form, but it is always true on the level of content. If you have chosen Jesus as your teacher and feel the ongoing presence of his love, you can never have a judgmental thought about anyone. Impossible. Why? The answer lies in another principle based on projection that is so important it is said twice in the text. Projection makes perception. I first look within my mind, choose the teacher whose thought system I espouse and identify with, and then project or extend the guilt or love I have chosen, perceiving it in the world. If it is from the right mind, I will extend it. But since the dynamic is the same, we will sometimes stay with the word projection for convenience. Thus, if I have chosen Jesus as my teacher and experience his love and peace, I will project that out, seeing love and peace all around me. If people are not living in a peaceful, loving way, I will understand that they are really afraid of the love that is in them. Now that's, when we think about all those people we think who are behaving badly, if people are not living in a peaceful, loving way, I will understand that they are really afraid of the love that is in them. And I will hear the fear, not attack. So can we stop there for a second? Because this is so important, because we all see people who we think are behaving incredibly poorly. And if we can really understand that they are afraid to look at love, if they're acting what we consider in a hateful manner, can we really see how afraid they are of love? How afraid they are to look at themselves as being loving toward everyone, not just their kids or not just their spouses or not, I have a hard time doing that every once in a while, stopping and looking and saying to myself, they're just afraid of the love that is in them. And Bob says in the chat, we have met the enemy and he is, or as Kurt Morrow likes to say, I think it's a direct quote from the cartoon, and he is ussin'. He is us. And if I'm looking at somebody else and I'm not able to see them being afraid of the love in them, is that me being afraid to see the love in me? Anybody else go through this? Not, looking out and making an immediate judgment. That's a bad person. Instead of looking at myself and saying, oh, Mickey, are you being afraid to see love in them or yourself? Who am I looking with? If I'm looking with the Christ or if I'm looking with Holy Spirit, I'm immediately going to be able to see that that person is afraid. And I'm usually okay with that. I can usually say, okay, they're just scared. They're scared of people whose skin is a different color. They're scared of people who want to give money away to other people. Or, I'm real good at that. But I'm not as good as saying they're afraid of the love in them, which means I'm afraid of the love in me. We're always only looking at ourselves. Am I the only person that has a problem with this every once in a while?
No, you're not. Every one of us, we just got done talking about it.
Not at
Before
all.
you
Not at
came
all.
on. No, we're all doing that. I mean, the bottom line is that we're being moved. It doesn't really say that in the course, but Roger Costello was always one of my favorite teachers. And he says, nothing moves, not a leaf, without oneness doing that. So if you're in resistance, you just say, okay, Sharon is in resistance, but I'm the light. So you can do that because, you know, you're not meant to. Like when you were saying before that some people don't want to love, they're not called to that. This is an inner calling. If you pick up this book, it's not because you're special, it's because it's part of the sonship that we are the ones that are being picked to do this stuff. Because, and it's not about specialness, it's just because people that don't have an inner calling, why would they do this? I mean, if you listen to Ken say, nobody wants to know they're not there. Nobody. And when you think about it, I can identify there's a fear of love in me, or else it would be over. I'd already have inclusivity. I don't have that. I am on my ladder, rising my consciousness. That is the process. And the unwinding of the ego is what's going on for all of us. So, who is it? Which part of any of us wants to not do that? Well, that's the ego, because the light knows that there's no problem, whatever you do. So I look at it like, you know, yeah, you want to kind of get to a point where the ego is okay with all this and it doesn't want to yell and scream and carry on. But there's actually like this special relationship with the ego is really special hate, but we think it's special love. Now, when somebody says love yourself, they're not talking about the character ever. They're always talking about the infinite, and it's when Dove says something like love the truth. You want to love what's real and not real, but we will fall down because the ladder, the highest one, well, I can honestly say there's fear still in this mind. I mean, and maybe there will be until the end, but I don't feel fear. I don't feel fear. But like I do get, I want to have the information on what's going on because I want to know. Well, who wants to know? It's only the character. So what's happened is the politics, which was in the forefront of my mind, has become something I'm not as interested in. I didn't like what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, but it was Sharon that didn't like it. The light sees it all perfect, so it's kind of important not to push because this is an unwinding. It's not like the ego just falls away completely right away. It's a ladder. That's how I see it anyway. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
Sharon.
And I was thinking about the Jimmy Kimmel thing. That was all a purpose of everything has happened to stimulate my mind. So, freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that honestly, what a lame excuse for hating my brother, because my brother didn't want my other brother to say something that they didn't want to hear. That's basically it. So, I don't want to hear that brother tell me that they don't want to hear my other brother say what they think. I don't, but if honestly, if I had my way, the whole idea of free speech, it would be free loving speech, free kind speech, free inclusive speech, not free hate speech. And my identification, what I say is hate. A lot of other people think is love. Do you understand? I mean, that's hard to understand, but I talked to my sister on the phone and she interprets love as being, I want to have strong borders. I want to kick all these immigrants out. Her idea of love is completely the opposite of my idea of love. Does that mean, and I say opposite, like it could be, but which one of us is right? Well, neither one of us is right if we're excluding anybody. So I can't have my free speech that's only loving, and because speech itself is symbol of the separation. We don't have to talk to each other in heaven. We don't have conversations in reality. There's no arguing, there's no discussion, there's nothing because there's just knowledge. Michaeli, yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you for that, Lynn and Sharon. And you know, when, when I heard what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, I look at it in a different way. You know, also again, I ask the question, what is the purpose for? And I put myself in Jimmy Kimmel's shoes. And what came to me is if I would have been Jimmy Kimmel, I would and had that much fame on the stage, I would on this stage, the dream stage, I would have said, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democratic, liberal, transgender, whoever you are, we're all children of God. Let's take a moment of silence right now to honor, you know, the life of Charlie Kirk. And, you know, that's including oneness. And that to me would have been the right way to do it. And sometimes you know, people's ego, wealth, it kind of, you know, it gets really big and kind of like Humpty Dumpty, they have to fall and then, you know, sometimes, and then they have to pick themselves up again because the ego gets so big. The ego always shows division and kind of how you brought up borders, Lynn. You know, bird flies into Mexico and he doesn't even know. Then he crosses the line and he's in the United States. He has no borders. He's free.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I mean, the whole thing, because what did Jimmy Kimmel say? He said, a MAGA killed another MAGA. They interpreted that as, I mean, they took him off the air for just saying those words. A MAGA killed another MAGA. Now, whatever else, I mean, he didn't say anything else. And they took that offense because they were looking for something to offend them. And so, I mean, it's true. I mean, a MAGA did kill another MAGA. That I mean, that doesn't mean. I mean, nobody's right in that situation. Glorian, please go ahead.
That's it. You just said it, Lynn. Nobody's right in that situation. And you said they're looking for something to defend. So it's all of us, that one ego, siding with this, judging that, analyzing that, this is right, this is wrong. It's all duality. And what you said before, about what is it that I don't want to hear? And that's the voice for God. By aligning with all of this or even delving into it, that's what really, when we ask Holy Spirit, what does this mean for me? I don't want to hear the voice for God. And there's our choice. Thanks.
Exactly. That's it. Excuse me, what do I want to hear? Excuse me, now I'm choking on my own spit. Sorry about that. Okay, does anybody want to continue reading? We have about 8 more minutes before we go.
Sure.
Okay, good.
I'm going to go back to that last sentence I read where I had to stop. If people are not living in a peaceful, loving way, I will understand that they are really afraid of the love that is in them, and I will hear the fear, not the attack. Jesus tells us early in the text that frightened people can be vicious. And so through Christ's vision, I understand that people's viciousness is coming from their fear. Since I am in this holy instant of sanity, filled with a reflection of the love of God, I will embrace people with that love, which I cannot do if I see them as attacking, being vicious, or unkind. I can embrace them in my mind only if I realize that their attack is coming from their fear. What is a loving brother to do but embrace them in that love, which is automatic once I choose the teacher of love? There is that wonderful lesson that says, I feel the love of God within me now. When I feel that love, I cannot attack, which means that when I find myself attacking, judging, criticizing, or finding fault, it must be because I am no longer choosing the teacher of love, but the teacher of guilt instead. It has to be that, and this mistaken decision is my problem, not anything external, regardless of its form.
Yeah, I just wanted to stop. Thank you for reading that. And I mean, really, Ken very clearly points this whole thing out. And I love that he's using lesson 209. These are the lessons that Dove and Karen are going to be going through over the next 20 weeks. So I'm excited about that on Thursdays. But um, I feel the love of God within me now. When I feel that love, I can't attack. Um, so if I'm not feeling that love, I will attack. And when I find myself attacking, I recognize that's because I'm not feeling the love of God within me now. So I mean, it's so simple. And he says I can embrace them in my mind only if I realize that their attack is coming from their fear. Well, that's kind of a justification, saying, well, yeah, I know, but he's really afraid. So it's, I'm not going to attack him for being afraid, which is true. What kindness attacks a fearful person? What love attacks someone who is paralyzed by their own fearful thoughts? If you see someone who is paralyzed by their own fearful thoughts, do you walk up to them and say, snap out of it? Yeah, you do. Yeah, slap them, snap out of it. But that's not the loving way to approach it, because you recognize that they're only thinking those thoughts because they're believing their mind. And I'm only thinking those thoughts because I'm believing my mind. And he's already told us your mind is insane. It doesn't, the mind of the ego does not understand or know love. Love and the mind of the ego do not coincide. So if you think I'm just being loving because I'm not attacking them back, that in itself is an attack. You can't use love or your opinion of love or your thought about love to justify attacking a brother because they're not thinking the way that you think or you would like for them to think. So, it really is just going into my own mind and looking at my own thinking and feeling the love of God, looking for the love of God. Glorian, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lynn. And I really like what you shared there, because basically that is forgiveness to destroy. But we use everything. So we use whatever it is to bring our mind from false perception to true perception, seeing it as a call for love. But ultimately, what he's saying here about attacking, judging, criticizing, or finding fault, it's because I'm no longer choosing the teacher of love. Once we recognize, that's what he's saying in the course about forgive and this will disappear. Be willing not to judge it. Be willing to move from that analyzing, criticizing, judging mind and accept that mind that's in Christ Jesus. And then it'll disappear. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's the key, I guess, to all of this. And so it is a choice. Rafi, hi, sweetie. Good morning.
Hi. One of the tactics that I use, not a tactic really, is and if someone is being what we quote irrational, unquote, and they're coming from a place where they don't realize that that fear is that fear feeling is what motivating them. I just don't see them as a person. I see them as the divine love that they really are. And then in my head, I just keep saying, I love you, 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 I love you. And in less than a minute or so, their whole attitude changes. So if everybody's an expression, a divine expression, and everybody's a reflection, I'm putting out love. All I'm going to see back is love, and that's what happens. And it's infallible. I've done it hundreds of times, and it works every single time. And then again, like I said, you're not seeing them as a separate person, which is an ego concept. Seeing them as I see them as a divine love that they truly are. And the more simpler I keep it that way, the more effective it becomes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rafi. And yeah, that's the same, that's the thing I do with the Ho'oponopono. I've been doing Ho'oponopono a lot because I've been seeing these destructive thoughts in my mind that just keep coming up and coming up. And of course, it may seem like it's being stimulated by events in the world, but really it's being stimulated by my own need to look at these thoughts and forgive them. So, it isn't, there's one thing about, doing the Ho'oponopono, which I do. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Whatever order you want to say those in, just even saying I love you, I'm sorry. I think is a good way to start. But the please forgive me, when you get to the point where you're saying, forgive me for imagining that you are not the Christ. Forgive me for imagining that my brother is my enemy. Forgive me for imagining that I'm in danger. Forgive me for imagining that you're doing something that is hateful. Forgive me for imagining all those. Every single one of those things is an imaginary thought in my mind. So when you say I love you, brother, I love you, God, I love you, what is the truth about me? I'm sorry I imagined that you were something else. I'm sorry I imagined you were somewhere else, somebody else, something else. Please forgive me for imagining that, because that is a malpractice of you and myself. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to look at these things. And so it's really, it's a full scale forgiveness that is very, so very simple. And so of course I found that is and Bob says the Ho'oponopono has the capacity to heal any relationship because it has all the components of true forgiveness. I recognize there's a problem. I, see that the problem is not really what I think it is. I turn it over to the Holy Spirit, and I let it go. And as long as I do those things, and again, I want to emphasize that turning it over to the Holy Spirit is the key. Because if I don't let it go by turning it over to someone who does know, then I'm going to still think it needs to be solved and I'm still going to hold on to it. And I'm going to still look for solutions and try to figure it out. But when I turn it over to the Holy Spirit, I can actually say, I'm giving this to someone who knows. And I don't have to know. All I have to do is give it away. And then I can be free of it. So, I think, that's for me, the most important part of it all. I look at it, I decide I don't want it, I want to let it go, but I just don't throw it out into the universe. I turn it over to someone who can actually dissolve it. And of course, that's in my mind, but that letting it go to that extent, to letting someone else hold it for me, um, it has been the key to me actually truly letting it go. Otherwise, it comes back up. And that is, it's like, if you eat radishes and you like radishes, you ever notice when they come back up? Um, anyway, Mickey, or let's see, oh my gosh, we're at the bottom of our time. I'm going to go ahead and mark the book here and stop. I'm not even going to stop the share, but I will stop the YouTube. And if you're listening to us or watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and like. I guess I need to stop the share to be able to get in there. So like and subscribe. Join us.
And comment.
And comment. Yes.
We love comments.
I love those comments. Every time I see someone comment, I'm like, oh, let me go look. And, to see what someone is thinking a lot of times, it's just symbols.